That didn't work. There we go. So good morning. This is Simon with toughtrader.com doing the market preview. Today is the 31st of July, last day of the month. Just really quick, past performance is not indicative of future results. Trading derivatives comes with substantial risk. Please make sure you understand those risks and you have a risk management plan. Don't keep drawing down. Everyone has a difficult time trading from time to time. My suggestion is you take a pause, cut back trade size, go to paper trading. Just call a couple of trades if you need to, if you're having a hard time, but don't keep drawing down your account. I do this very thing if I run into a rut, and every trader runs into a rut, particularly when the markets switch really quick like we just did, where we went from straight up and now we're just getting this constant grind to the downside, right? It becomes very, very difficult, very, very challenging. So my suggestion is you make it easy on yourself, right? Make it easy on yourself and protect your capital and only trade the highest odds trades whenever possible. At any rate, there's a disclaimer if you'd like to read it. We're done with that. Wow, it's a beautiful color of my shirt. I don't think anybody needs that. That's a little too much up. Let's see if we can find it in between. There we go. Let's get this off the screen. And so, number one, Apple has numbers tonight. Most important thing to remember coming into the day. The reason why that's important to think about it, NASDAQ has just gotten slaughtered. Pretty good word for it, maybe. Let's take a look here. So just take a look at the chart on NASDAQ. It's just ugly as can be, right? I mean, that's pretty much trend down, right? So a reminder on markets when they go down, this kind of price behavior really emboldens shorts and gets them to really push hard to the downside. And when they get trapped ugly, and it can have nasty reversals. So the first question I always ask is, has any damage actually occurred on the NASDAQ, right? So we're going to go look. Copy window, paste window. And then if we come in and let's just get rid of all this drawings. And then let's just go to a 30-minute time frame and see what's happened. Okay. And this should still be in sim. It is. Okay. So if you take a look at that, really, has the market really fallen apart? Okay. Yeah. We had a pretty decent rundown. There's no question about that. And that's an ugly roll to the downside. But look off to the left. See that right there? That is structure right there. That's what you have to beat if you really want to say, well, there's damage to the market. Now, I'll grant you it's another 200 points down, 300 points down, but at the rate NASDAQ's trading, it's only another day or two. But this is a rip down from the high. And had you looked at this and gotten bearish and said, well, oh my, the market's all over, right? Come back and look just not too long ago. But if you said the same thing here, because I would have looked at it and I would have said structure and support is here off to the left, right? And until that's broken, wow, that's not cool. I need to restart this. Hold on a second here. Share screens, share. And then I need to rejoin the Zoom meeting, which ended. Hold on a second. 37. 6. Okay, there we go. And that's a good reminder to turn the speaker off. There we are. Here. This over here. Let's go back. Apologies. Okay, cool. So if you were over here in June, you'd be like, oh my gosh, it's all over for the NASDAQ. That's a drop from 7,300 to 7,000, right? 300-point drop. Look to the left. If you don't beat the structure to the left, there is no bear market now. Is this time different? Sure, maybe. But I would say the same thing over here. Now look where we really ripped down in April, right? And you would have said, oh my gosh, it's awful here. I would have looked to this structure. Let's see. We're going to say this right here. I'm probably going to say this right here is the key, right? And if you look what it did, right? If you put a line through that area, Okay, see how we came down? They tried to hold it. See how we closed right at the low of that structure to the left? We broke, trapped back in, tried to get above the structure to the left, and then it finally rolled to the down. Look at how it finally rolled after that to the downside. The other thing you're going to notice is this is a pretty nice move to the downside. Look at the face rippers to the upside on NQ. In this process of going from 7,200 to 6,400, that's a huge drop, right? That's 600, 800 point drop. But look in between in that process, if you mistimed your shorts for any reason, you had face rippers intraday that went from 6,600 to 6,800. You went from roughly 6,450, let's call it, all the way back up to 6,700. And then finally, when it reversed, it was just a killer. I'm not saying not to short. What I'm saying is be very selective in how you get bearish, because these V shapes, I promise you, there's people that end up going broke, going, I know the NASDAQ or I know ES is short, right? And they get caught in each one of these pushes to the upside, and they wonder, how did I get crushed on pushes to the upside when the market just rolled down 600 points? So that's my only word of caution in regards to getting too bearish. I'm not against shorting. I'll probably be doing some shorting at some point today. I haven't been shorting very much the last couple of weeks, but I will pick it up from rotations up at key locations. I'll be looking for shorts. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on the NQ chart. Let's go look at ES real quick. Let's get this off to the side. Okay, where are we on? Okay, let's see. There we are. And there we are right there. Okay, so let's go look at the TPO. So the first question I have whenever I look at the TPO is, what does this? What is the price? What is the profile telling me? What is the volume profile telling me? Okay, so the first thing I want to note of caution, see this area right here? See how it's all flat along the front? That's easily traded through. There's really only one little hitch, and it's at 2804, right? If you look at it from a profile and not from a, here, let me do this. I'm going to take spotlight. There we go. I'm talking about this little area right here. So if we, I see what it does. If I do that, it goes away. Okay. Annotate, spotlight. And then if I go in here, we're just going to move that. So this little spot right here, that 2805 to 2803.25, that acted as support. Believe it or not, we were stuck in a little resistance area last night in Asia, if you were here in the room, and we were shorting right up to 2807.25. Our short was 2806 to 2807.25, and we were covering down into this 2804 to 2803 location. That was the majority of our trade in Asia, pretty tight, right? But if you look at that chart, which again have already been published for members, and you look above, notice the lack of point of controls to the upside that aren't covered, and then also notice the lack of point of control, naked point of controls that aren't available to the downside. This thing can rip either way pretty easily. I'm going to take you to a time so you understand what I'm saying of where it did just that in both directions. So if you look, see when the see if we can get to a period where we have, okay. So see when you're in this period here, if you're looking when you're sitting up here, let me put this away. And by the way, if you're looking for me to give a specific area, I'm going to wait till the market starts trading before I decide to take to grab a trade. Okay, if you look at this, see how every naked point of control has been covered up as you look through here? That makes it very, when you look at this, this would become up here. I'd say, look, if we can get weak and we can get underneath value area, this 2737 becomes my prime downside target. It does not mean that it doesn't mean that we're going to go straight there. It just, because you'll have other areas of support within the structures. It just means that we have an opportunity. If you were a swing trader and you were looking for a short, that's what I would have been targeting to the downside. And you'll see, I don't know if we've ever gotten to, there we go. And then we finally get down there to 27.37. And what you'll notice is it's coming down. It starts putting in points of control above that start serving as resistance. And that's what finally pushes us down to take out the naked points of control lower. You can also see that just because there are no points of control that are anywhere nearby does not mean that we simply turn around and rip to the downside. And for the same reason that I'm cautious, you can see these 3 days where we actually did rotate lower towards our goal. A, we didn't make the goal the first time, but secondly, you can see responsive buyers came in every single time. And even though you could have said, hey, we're short here, intraday you could have easily lost money as the market kept pushing back up. Okay, so what has changed in the market the last 2 days, it's not tangible, is that responsive buyers have not been there. We simply haven't seen a push into support, and then we get that usual 4, 5, 6 point counter rotation out of support. It's been more like 1 or 2 points of counter rotation and then drop, right? It's made counter trading really hard. Where it's opened up consistently and been easier has actually been in that 1 to 3 o'clock time frame, has been where trading the counter rotation has been much easier than in the morning. I don't know why, okay? But clearly there's been a change in pace in the way that the traders are responding to the market. So what am I going to do to respond to that? A, I'm watching. I want to see, are the rotations opening up in the first hour? Do we get 10 down, 5 up, or is it 10 down and stop, right? You should have that on your list. Are there counter rotations? If they're not counter rotations and you're taking longs, you better be scalping out of those at 1 and 2 points, right? Because sometimes that's all you're getting on the counter rotation in the AM. I don't know that that's here to stay, but that's how it is right now. Hopefully we'll see a change in that pace. B, make sure you're taking at good locations, right? And when we're down below, you are targeting back to VWAP. I'm going to show you right here, okay? So if you look on this chart, what changed here is normally, so if you go back a couple of days, okay, what we were seeing was every time we got underneath VWAP, we were making constant trips back to VWAP. It made a great target. You roll down, come back to VWAP. You roll down, come back to VWAP. All the way through this chart, it just simply doesn't matter where you look behind. The trips back to VWAP from dips below were a consistent target. If you were a trader, right, and you were buying underneath VWAP, underneath value, and said, what's my target back up? You constantly would say, my target back up for scale is VWAP, right? And you would not want to mess with the short above VWAP. Look how all this, so everyone see that character in the charts there, how we would constantly make a move back towards VWAP. Now come back and look at the last couple of days, okay? We get underneath. Okay, yes, it did go back towards VWAP, but then we get into these areas where we just start grinding down, and there's a prolonged period where traders are just stepping over one another to sell, and they did make it back to VWAP yesterday, right? And we had a short at VWAP that was beautiful, right? But it is very hard when you get into this situation where they're just stepping on top of each other, where they take prolonged periods to get back to VWAP. And if we look, we had the same thing on Friday, right? Where you would have expected a snap back to VWAP. This is where I got caught on my longs, and the mode has simply changed. We never made it back to VWAP all day long. So you know what I would like to see? I'd like to see, when I'm judging, right, on my longs, I'll be quicker to come out of the trade until I see quick snaps in the AM back to VWAP consistently. And if all of a sudden I see the rotations get really small through here. So see in the morning how we had extensions, this is overnight, Asia, straight up. And then see how the PA just changes and it's going straight down. This isn't two-sided trading. This is just simply trading where all the sellers are coming in, all the buyers are coming in, all sellers. They make a quick attempt early in the morning after the first half hour, and then there's just no contra from really, when you look at 9:30 in the morning all the way till 11:30, it was simply little to no contra in there, 3-4 points max, and that's after significant stretches down, right? That makes contra trading really hard, and what it tells you is make sure that you have location, and that as of this moment, short is easier. But it always looks like this before they rip your face off. The problem is for weaker traders, as they're coming in, they can't stand the agony of having missed this trade. And what they do is they go, oh, I'm short now. And they're looking at basic support resistance levels. Like they might look right in here and go, oh, it must be short here. And they'll short on the pop back up and then get run straight into VWAP. And it's frustrating because you sat and watched it go down all day long, and then it just turns on a dime and the up becomes much easier. So my plan for today is to trade near anomalies. Number one, let me go back and show you where I'm looking to trade. My first question is, are we above or below VWAP? If we're below VWAP, does yesterday's price action resume? Or are we actually going to start to get these 5 and 10 point counter rotations that are quick? Remember, Apple's numbers come out at the end of the day today. If we get buried deep in the morning, do not be shocked by an ugly face ripper in the last hour or afterwards, right? People get very, very confident that they found the top on the market. And as I said, we haven't broken the structure to the left on NQ, and ES has simply not been as ugly as NQ has been, right? So that's my two cents. I'm looking for key areas. And then the other thing I am looking for to get long, right? So this is somewhat difficult for me just to take the longs into the hole like this. But what I will look for is when we do develop structure and we get a prolonged, right? We get a prolonged push to the upside. I'll be looking to get back into the V's down here. Which, by the way, Ralph called this in the room late in the day. We have a great community of traders. Ralph called this, and he simply had a great location at 2801 right into the hole, and he got a beautiful rotation back up. It was a tough day for longs. He really did a good job at staying with his trade process, and he was able to pull this out, actually, I think twice, once here and once over here. It was a good trade for him. I took a stop, just so everyone knows, I took a stop yesterday morning approximately right in here when I couldn't get it to push back up. I forget where I took it. It was somewhere right in here because this was my stop. And I stopped trading for the day. And the reason for that is probably for the first time in over 2 years, I now have had 4 stops in a row. It almost never happens. 3 full stops and 1 small stop on a speculative position. And so I don't keep digging a hole until I can until I can get a good read on what's going on. And this is really important part of coaching, okay? Everyone goes through periods where they lose touch, for lack of a better word, of what the market's doing. At that point, you go, well, wow, everything I've done is worthless and I'm just going to lose money, and I panic and I'm going to stare at the charts for hours upon hours upon hours to figure it out. Or you go, hey, the market's not working the way it usually does, right? We're in a transition period. Odds are, even in a transition period, right? So let me draw this out. Even in a transition period. So we're used to the market doing this, okay? But let's say the market's going to do this and really going to drop, okay? And let's say this, if we look at the chart, at the end of 3 months, it ends up doing this, hypothetically, right? Okay, well, in between that period, when you look at that larger chart, what you're going to see is eventually somewhere in there, we're going to find support, right? And what the market will start doing is opening up like we're used to, where we'll get two-sided price action, right? Because we'll stop driving straight. So we're in the first phase of a potential rollover, right? In that first phase, the market's gotten so far extended that there's no real solid buyers underneath. Everyone's hitting the exit, and we're pretty much doing this. But eventually, traders are going to start looking at the market and going, you know what? It's dropped enough, and we're going to start to get this. But then you're going to get traders trapped on top, and they're going to start pushing it down. And what we'll have are these beautiful two-sided rotations, right? And the algo, and I know my own personal trading, works great in this environment, right? Where I have difficulty, just like if the market goes straight up, I have difficulty if the market goes straight down, because I'm a contra trader for the most part. I'm trying to trade where the trend generally is, but I'm a contra trader. There must have just been some kind of news that hit, because futures just jumped big. We're 28.13, 28.15. You can see we're just shooting up. So I don't know what the news is, but clearly something just happened. 16. I don't know what the news was, but we certainly just ran like a banshee to the upside. And if you'll notice, look where we're going to run to. So this is a great example of when the market's running fast. We're going to check this out. Let's erase all my beautiful drawings. Okay, let's go to the profile and see what the profile tells us. Right now, see how we're pushing up into that 17, 18, and 1850 was the high, right? So see how we just pushed? So see how there's no anomaly sticking out here, guys? Look at your dome, right? You'll see that there's no anomalies there, right? Look where we just paused. The first pause came at 1875. Let's pull that up. Okay. That's the close of the first 30-minute period from yesterday, right? If you look above, there's a hole in the profile right here, right? That 21 and 3/4 to 24 1/4. there's an anomaly right here, and then there's value area high that's been untested. So this hole in the profile, this anomaly, and a hole in profile right in there. There's really no resistance other than we may have gotten exhausted, or they're looking at where the prior day's high is. And now we're opening above value area high, right? So a couple of things about that. Number one, face rippers are ugly on shorts. When too many people get short, they're forced to cover. So I don't know what the news was, but it certainly drove the market pretty hard right there, right? Number two, now that we're above value area, my strategy shifts, right? If we're not below value area high, 28.1275, I want to be cautious with my shorts. If we consolidate in the first hour, this is helpful. Consolidate in the first hour above 28.1275, I want to look for opportunities to get long through here up to 28.1875, all the way up and through where the auction's complete. And I'm going to say the auction's complete somewhere between 28.38 and 28.3375. It's not that far away. That's 15 points up, guys. Easily achievable from where we're at right now. Very easily achievable. We're only up 12 points. If we tack on another 10, that puts us at 25 right at this anomaly. That would be up 25 for the day. That's the first place I would look for exhaustion, right? And then look where we came back to from the overnight. You go back to this chart. Okay. So if you look, wow, I had that whole area marked off as resistance. That's great. Let me clear this chart settings. Do I want to do that? I do. Okay, there we are. Okay, so if you look where we came up to, right? So look how the market behaved last night. The hole in profile. I want to make sure everyone gets this. Last night, our resistance point was essentially this to that. That was our resistance point from last night. I worked this short out of this location all night long in Asia. I was short all the way through here multiple times, real time in the room, right? So now we pushed, right? Look where we came to resistance, right up at 28.11. We tried to break above, failed, couldn't come back down, came back for supply, right? Right where support is, right? So markets pushed, they had to come back for energy. Clearly, this was news that popped us. And look where we popped to. Now, normally, I would have said there's one of two areas where we'd have resistance based on this chart. I would have looked right here, right? And you can see they tried to reject it there, but what they ended up doing is then the next area I have, which is my true target up closer to that 21.75. And you can see what happened there when they pushed up, right? We blew through this, and that's because that was short covering, but otherwise this would normally act as support. So I want to show you something. If this were Asia, this 28.15, 28.75, see how this acted right here? Let me go with this to this. Actually, I'm going to go this to this. 28.09 to 28.1175. See how it has acted as the second tier of resistance all night long, right? We roll back down for energy. You then get news that drives you past that peak and rolls you. So guess where traders are trapped now? There were shorts here and there were shorts here. Your first entry of responsive buyers should come in between 28.12 and 28.10. Your next level should become 28.08, 28.07. And then what hasn't been tested yet, or barely tested, somewhere between this 28.25 and 27.98. You combine those levels with your TPO to get an idea of where the auction's complete, and you get an idea of the back and forth. This should still get tested if we're strong this morning. So now when we open, right, assuming we don't have open drive lower, I expect this area to get an initial response, followed by this 28.07, 28.06. If we get underneath this, then they're going to come in and test Globex low right in here, and then yesterday's low. And if you look up above, once we get above, there's plenty of room. If you look, that 28.21 became pretty solid resistance. On 24-hour chart, you see how they came over here. And if you look back to the left, I like this chart, by the way. You can see that 28.21 was a pretty key area. They tried above, they broke out above, they backside tested, they attempted below, backside tested, rejected, right? Above, backside tested, held, and then that launched the rally. And if you look when we rolled down, so see how we sliced through that 28.21 there? So you would say, well, how's that support when you look at that? So it's an important price action piece. You go, well, how's that possibly support? Well, the reason why it's now resistance and it was support was because when you look back to the left, all these guys, when we ripped this through, everyone went on the chart and said, hey, you know what? 28.21 should be support, right? 1, 2, 3. So see how when we ripped through there, we backside tested and rejected it? This is important, right? So if you come up and I say, hey, 21, 21.75 area, that's general resistance, and we rip through. Remember, there's going to be other traders just like me and you and everyone else that's going to short there. If it rips through there, they're all going to look and go, oh, I need to cover when it comes for a backside test, and you're going to get a response out of it. That's my 2 cents on that. The market just opened. If anyone has any idea what the news was, obviously whatever it was, there was a positive response, and we want to see if they can hold it up on their end, see if NQ can get an open drive higher. Let's look at NQ really quick. And then we lay back and wait until we have these guys perfectly trapped and we let the algo take us in. So to start the day, insert symbol, tick. A lot of people got racked if they were short off the open. I can tell you that. Wrong chart. Insert symbol, tick, plot. Okay, and I'm not trading the first half hour, by the way, guys. So whatever it does. 756 gap. So we're going to ask a couple of questions. Number one, that was the afternoon swing high, right? All the way through that 28.10 to 28.11, right? Again, if you look at the other chart, I'll pop up right here, right? 28.10, 28.11, same chart, different look, but same chart essentially, right? Okay. So first question is the 28.10, 28.11 hold? My guess is first test into 28.10, 28.11. This is going to be the make or break. Bulls need to hold above this. Bears need to get it back below 28.10, 28.11. Next logical area comes up to the, so the anomaly is at 24, 26, but it's going to have to get through 21, 22, which is the high, and there's resistance there to the left. There's no anomaly. Okay. So I would expect initial resistance just because we've had a two-sided market. And then what I'm looking for is if we push into the anomaly and we either get an over under at the anomaly or we push in, reject, get underneath Monday's high and hold, then I would look for a repair back to the downside. I did not put a zone in here because generally speaking, if we hold above this 28.11, 28.10, it should be relatively easy for us to grind up and push up into that 24, 26, and there's a low volume node sitting there. And it's a return to the second scene of the crime. So the first scene of the crime is all the way up here at 28.34. It's just too far away for us to say we'll make a straight rip to it. So it's going to take it, it should take it in stages. And that first stage that should be tested, this is where they try to hold it at that 24.26. So what would make sense is we get to that 21, short squeeze that 24 to 26. If we get back below and we backside test back into this 2019 area right here and we hold, right, I would guess the second time through would break and we'll come back through and test up to that 28.35, this old value area high, and then into this 35.37 where the auction will be complete. And then really from that point, the market's free to roll over from there if it wants to because the chart would be considered repaired at that point. So it was slow and grindy yesterday. I'm looking to see that we have two-sided markets, and I'm looking to make sure I don't get trapped one way or the other. My guess would be that first time into 28.10 to 28.11 to 28.09, you can find responsive buyers if they can get down in there for a push back into VWAP at that point. So that's my 2 cents. Does anyone have any questions? Longs have not worked very well in the morning for anything other than scalps for 2 days in a row. You don't have to be the first one on the boat to make them work, right? And remember, Apple's going to be on the back of everyone's mind this morning. I would keep an eye on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ's been the weaker sister. If the NASDAQ doesn't get weak, nothing gets weak. That'd be my 2 cents. So if y'all would like to join us in the room on a regular basis, let me get the algo up and running real quick. Hold on a second here. Simply send me an email to tradertough@gmail.com. Happy to let you join. Get rid of this screen, which is simply a second way for me to look at the market. We're pushing right up right now. This 28.19 would obviously be considered initial resistance up here. If it closes above, and again, this first half hour is the hardest time to trade, I would think that we would go ahead and test that 21 to 21.75 would be my guess, somewhere in here. Starting at 20 to 21.75 would be where I think we'd be able to run again. There's no TPO resistance in this area. It should be able to get up into this anomaly and into this and into these low volume nodes that are up here in the profile. There's a particularly outstanding low volume node right there at 28.30, by the way. So I'm hoping we push to the back of that and then get rejection right out of that anomaly for a roll to the downside. I'll be keeping my eye on that. So algo's up. There's the algo. Let's get it over to the right. And you can see delta's positive and market looks respectfully strong out of the gate. So anyways, that's my 2 cents, guys. Have a wonderful day. Watch your P&L. And if you're having a tough time in the market, just pause. This passes after a couple of days and we go back to a two-sided market and it gets pretty easy. So give me a second. I'm going to mute out.